The hum of conversation filled the glass-walled boardroom of BriarTech Industries, 27 stories above Manhattan. The city below glittered, but inside, the air was tense. The kind of tension that comes when people smile while quietly competing for survival. "All right," said Richard Vaughn, the silver-haired CEO whose reputation was as polished as his cufflinks. "Let's get started. Time is money, gentlemen." Gentlemen, that word always hung in the air like a ceiling she could never touch. Jasmine Cole, 33, the company's marketing director, glanced at the agenda in front of her. She had spent 3 months refining her strategy, the kind of idea that could relaunch BriarTech into a modern digital powerhouse. She knew the data was airtight, but as she raised her hand to speak, Richard didn't even glance in her direction. "Tom," he said instead, "you start us off." Tom, a junior operations manager who had barely skimmed her reports, gave her an apologetic glance before launching into a stumbling summary. He quoted a few numbers from her presentation, the wrong ones, and then nervously deferred. "Actually, Jasmine's been leading the marketing projections." Richard cut him off with a polite chuckle. "We'll come back to marketing. Let's talk logistics first." They never came back. By the time Jasmine finally got the floor, 30 minutes later, the board had moved on to quarterly expenses. "Mr. Vaughn," she said carefully, "I believe if we refocus our consumer reach strategy." Richard smiled the way people smile at a child trying to be helpful. "Jasmine, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is about operations, not slogans." Her throat tightened. "It's not slogans. It's behavioral data. The consumer base." Right, interrupted Mark, another senior board member. "But marketing isn't our pain point right now." The laughter that followed was small, but sharp. It cut deep. When the meeting adjourned, Jasmine gathered her notes quietly. She didn't look up even as the men around her joked about golf and whiskey. "Don't take it personally," whispered Tom. "It's just how they are." She gave a faint smile. "That's the problem, Tom. It's always how they are." That night, her apartment was silent except for the sound of city rain tapping against the windows. Jasmine sat at her desk, staring at her laptop. Every time she looked at the glowing screen, her mind replayed the meeting, the dismissive tone, the smirks. She opened the presentation again, scrolling through charts and metrics. She whispered to herself, "They'll listen one day, they'll have to." Her phone buzzed. A text from her younger sister. "Ava, how's work, sis?" "Jasmine, same as always." "I spoke. They didn't hear." "Ava, then make them. You've never been invisible. They just don't know where to look yet." Jasmine stared at that message for a long time. She went back to work. By Friday morning, BriarTech's boardroom was spotless. Bottled water lined the table. Every laptop gleamed. Today wasn't just another meeting. Today, the investors were coming. Among them was Alexander Grant, a venture capitalist known for being both brilliant and brutally honest. His fund had saved BriarTech from bankruptcy years ago. Richard rehearsed his presentation like an actor before an opening night. "Gentlemen, let's keep this clean and smooth. Investors like confidence. No side chatter." He glanced at Jasmine. "Just have your visuals ready, okay? I'll handle the talking." Jasmine blinked. "But those visuals are my presentation." Richard gave a smooth laugh. "Exactly. Your work, my delivery, teamwork." The meeting began at 10 o'clock sharp. The investors took their seats, with Alexander at the head of the table, expression unreadable. Richard stood and began with a booming voice. "Good morning. BriarTech stands at the edge of a massive breakthrough. Our strategy, a hybrid consumer model, will triple engagement by next quarter." As he clicked through slides, Jasmine froze. They were her slides, her data, her ideas, stripped of her name. He had even removed her initials from the file footer. Her hands trembled. Alexander's sharp eyes followed the presentation with mild interest. But something about Richard's overly slick delivery seemed off. When Richard concluded, the room filled with polite claps. Then came Alexander's first question. "These projections, what's your sample size on consumer engagement?" Richard's confident smile twitched. Well, That data was handled by our marketing division. Alexander raised a brow. Which team member? Richard hesitated. It was a collective effort. A pause. The air grew thick. Alexander's gaze drifted across the table and landed on Jasmine. You've been quiet. Did you work on these numbers? Jasmine's heart skipped. Yes, sir. I led the analysis. I'd like to hear your version, Alexander said. Richard tried to interject. Mr. Grant, that's unnecessary, I wasn't asking you, Alexander said coldly. Jasmine stood slowly, palms slightly trembling. The projections come from behavioral trend mapping across our digital channels. Our engagement increase isn't due to expansion, it's due to precision. We're not adding more branches. We're refining outreach to the customers who already trust us. She clicked through new graphs on her laptop, deeper data that Richard had never included. See, this isn't a gamble, she said. It's proof. Alexander nodded, his expression shifting from suspicion to genuine interest. And why wasn't this included in the presentation I received? Jasmine looked at Richard, who gave a strained laugh. Oh, she's still refining. I sent it to you 3 weeks ago. Jasmine interrupted, voice steady now. Silence. Alexander leaned back in his chair. Is that so? Yes, sir, she said quietly. But I was told my proposal wasn't ready for board review. The investors exchanged glances. Alexander's tone darkened. Mr. Vaughn, are you in the habit of presenting other people's work as your own? Richard's massive confidence cracked. Now hold on. This company runs on collaboration. Everyone contributes. Interesting, Alexander said. Then why does collaboration always sound like one person doing the work and another taking the credit? A pin-drop silence filled the room. Alexander closed his tablet and stood. I've been investing in BriarTech for years, and I've seen some questionable leadership, but this is a first. He looked straight at Richard. You built a company on borrowed brilliance. You can't even remember who your thinkers are. Richard's face flushed red. With all due respect. Alexander raised his hand. Respect is earned. You spent more time rehearsing how to talk than how to listen. He turned toward Jasmine. Ms. Cole, I'd like you to walk me through your full strategy, no filters. Jasmine hesitated, looking at her boss. Then she inhaled deeply and began. She outlined a marketing funnel, consumer habits, budget optimizations, and predictive analytics that Richard had completely ignored. She spoke with clarity, but also emotion. This isn't just numbers, she said softly. It's about understanding people. Our customers aren't data points. They're humans who want to be seen, just like people in this company. Alexander nodded slowly, his eyes softening. When she finished, the investors applauded quietly, something that almost never happened in board meetings. Now that, Alexander said, is leadership. He turned to Richard. Effective immediately, Ms. Cole will oversee all marketing and digital strategy under my direct supervision. You'll support her transition. Richard blinked. Support? You can't just... I can, Alexander said. And I will. Then, with surgical precision, he added, consider this your notice, Mr. Vaughn. You'll remain as a consultant until the board votes on your replacement. The color drained from Richard's face. Jasmine stood frozen. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Alexander replied. And get ready. You're about to have the floor. In the weeks that followed, the company shifted. Jasmine's office moved not higher, but wider. Her new team worked late, motivated by her leadership. She didn't bark orders or demand attention. She listened, and the results spoke louder than any speech ever could. When the new campaign launched, BriarTech's engagement tripled within months. Articles in Business weekly credited Jasmine by name. Headlines read, "The woman who rebuilt BriarTech from the inside out." Richard, now retired, watched from the sidelines. Once he sent her an email. "You were always the right person. I just didn't want to admit it." She didn't reply. Some apologies didn't need answers, only distance. One crisp winter morning, Alexander invited Jasmine to a breakfast meeting. He smiled warmly over coffee. "Do you know why I pushed so hard for you that day?" She shook her head. "Because years ago," he said, "I was you. I built a startup, and my board ignored me until one investor let me speak. I swore I'd return the favor someday." Jasmine's eyes softened. "Then I guess we both came full circle." He raised his cup to the voices that never stopped speaking, even when no one listened. She clinked her cup gently against his. A month later, the boardroom looked different. There were more women, more diverse faces, and for the first time, Jasmine chaired a meeting. She looked around the table and said, "I want every idea heard before we make decisions. Innovation doesn't come from volume. It comes from listening." Her team nodded. Outside, New York glowed under winter light. Jasmine smiled, remembering that first meeting. How invisible she'd felt, how small, and how one moment of truth changed everything. She'd fought not for revenge, but for fairness. And in doing so, she'd built something stronger than power, respect. When people silence your ideas, keep your evidence louder than your voice. The day will come when truth gives you the floor. They thought they silenced her in the boardroom until her name appeared on the new company logo.